What's up, guys? Okay, let's get to it. Looks like Jon Jones, he didn't necessarily fail a drug test, but it seems like they found trace amounts of turinabol in his system again before his fight with Alexander Gustafsson 2 is going to happen next Saturday. Now, as a fan, as just someone who watches the sport, you have to be very skeptical about this because, yes, it is very possible trace amounts, very small trace amounts, a picogram, which is a 1/50 trillionth of a gram of turinabol in someone's system, possibly can be found in someone's system who has taken stuff before. Now they're saying the trace amounts have been in his system since 18 months ago at least, right? At least since his last violation. And it's the same substance. So this most likely proves Jon Jones has been taking things before. Does it prove that he's been taking things now? No, it doesn't. It doesn't really prove anything like that. But it leaves questions. It creates some logical troubles. Because, yes, trace amounts like that can be found in your system, but before they were saying the trace amounts were a pinch of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. If you look at it literally and technically, Olympic-sized swimming pool can fit about 2.5 billion milliliters of water. And a pinch of salt is around 0.3 milliliters. A pinch of salt is about 1/16th of a teaspoon. And when you convert US teaspoons to milliliters, 1 teaspoon is the size of 4.9 milliliters, and 4.9 divided by 16, that will get you about 0.3 milliliters. And then you can find out how many pinches of salt can fit into an Olympic-sized swimming pool. If you take the 1/16th instead of the 1/8, converting a pinch of salt to how many teaspoons it is, you can fit about 8.1 billion pinches of salt into an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And what they found now is they found a picogram in his system, which is considerably smaller, right? It's 1/trillionth of a gram. Now, what this shows is what he tested for before is a bigger amount than what they found in his system now. Now, that may be logical, the fact that the trace amounts have been decreasing, right? Over an 18-month period, which that in itself seems pretty weird. Why is it taking it so long for it to get out of his system? But here is when things get a little bit tricky. I believe Jon Jones has been tested since 18 months ago, right? So they consider this a residue from the past violation. Did it ever come up in any of those tests? Did the trace amounts ever come up again until now? Because logically, and looking at the calculations, the trace amounts have to be getting smaller and smaller, right? To the point where it gets out of his system. Through the knowledge that we have, maybe they did find it before and they just knew it was residue, but why does it come up now? Why did it come up before his fight? And why did it come up when it's at its smallest? At least up to this date, it's at its smallest, right? This is the smallest trace amounts, I believe, logically, that it has ever been. If he's never taken stuff since at least 18 months ago, right? That's when it gets a little bit tricky. That's when red flags start to go up. Why is it showing up now? Of all times. Yes, it could be stored in the fats, and maybe that could make it hard for residues to get caught, but if the residue has been getting smaller and smaller since a year and a half ago, how would they find it now if they couldn't find it before? And there's something very skeptical about this. Whenever he gets popped for something, it's usually around a fight. It's not like when he's not fighting or out of camp. It's almost always around the time he's fighting. There's skepticism, of course, with fans. I mean, we have to be somewhat skeptical about this. And the fact it's 1 week away from the Gustafsson fight, which is a very, very important fight for Jon Jones, as well as Gustafsson, of course, as well as for the UFC. But I can already see it. I can already see people making theories. Jon Jones has been microdosing. Now, I'm no expert on microdosing. I'm no expert really on PEDs in general. But it does seem pretty logical for that theory to be correct. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not saying I agree with it. But just entertaining the thought, it is a very logical thing that could be happening, especially because they found it in his system before a fight and not prior, at least to our knowledge. Now, there are a couple things we may conclude, unless there's something that we're not seeing, shows that Jones has been taking stuff before and the residues are still there. The residue substance is not in other fighters for a reason, right? I mean, Tom Lawler did get caught with 17 picograms of ostarine, and he got 2-year suspension for that. I know they're saying Jon Jones didn't take anything. He didn't re-ingest anything. Now, again, I'm no expert in it, so hopefully someone can fill me in on it, but how can you actually tell if someone didn't re-ingest in a year and a half time? I find that claim hard to prove. I understand it's the theory that, okay, the same trace amounts are still in his system. It's getting smaller, so that's logical that those are the same trace amounts and he hasn't taken anything since. But then again, he didn't get caught by anything between the two findings, right? The first violation and now. To our knowledge, nothing has shown up in between. But all of a sudden, his fight is coming up and he gets caught by something again. And the whole thing with him declining VADA, he said that he wasn't prepared to take VADA. He didn't understand what was going to be the process and going in that. But again, him turning that down and now this is happening, it's even more of red flags. I'm not saying he's taking things. This is just something to really take notice of, really something to look forward to into the fight with Gustafsson. And actually, this whole story may even make this fight with Gustafsson even bigger. People, I think, are going to be more willing to watch this fight because of this story. And not just to see how Jon Jones performs and how he looks, but I think more people are going to want to see Gustafsson beat Jon Jones because of this. And finally just get rid of the controversy. It's still a great fight. It's still a fight I'm so much looking forward to. I still love the fight. We're talking about one of the greatest fights of all time. The rematch is happening. Now this time controversy's in it. It's funny, Daniel Cormier's already talking about it on Twitter that he popped again. And, Cormier mentioned before that he's never been found with trace amounts. So why is Jones being found with trace amounts? Nobody's really being found with these trace amounts. And this really only makes Cormier look better as a fighter. And there are people saying that what if Jones' body just naturally produces it? Again, I don't know, man. That doesn't seem likely at all. But I guess things are possible. I'm not going to say that's what's happening unless someone shows me evidence that can happen. But yeah, I don't know about that. And people are mentioning that they moved the card to Los Angeles. Now, I don't know if this is a big deal to make conspiracies around. Maybe there are people, of course, going to make conspiracies around that. I don't think it's any of that. I know USADA gave him a lesser suspension, and that makes things a little bit more skeptical. A far less suspension. But they're saying it has to do with the very small trace amounts and stuff like that. And the California Commission also agreed to that. But he had to pay more of a fine. The fact that he's moving to the California Commission and not staying with the Nevada Commission, it makes sense to the point where Nevada really had nothing to do with Jones' case in the first place. But there are people who are saying that the California Commission being involved with Jones before and the ban, or suspension I should say, is a lot lesser than people expected. So there's some funny business in that. Personally, I don't think any of that is happening. I think the trace amounts may have led to a lesser suspension, and the fact that they're moving this to California because the Nevada Athletic Commission aren't going to be there for the holidays or something like that, so they can't really see this out before the fight comes. And the California Commission could probably do it quicker because they already know about the case, so they're just going to have it over there. But then again, people are going to point out the whole thing with Tom Lawler. Again, very similar thing, but for Osterine, very small trace amounts, but got suspended for 2 years. The thing, though, is the fans are going to have to travel to California instead. If they already booked flights to Nevada, I guess they're going to have to do a 4-hour drive or something, or maybe fly over to California, take a hotel over there. It's kind of annoying for the fans. Man, with the speculation coming into this fight, people were hoping Jon Jones, if he would win, that he would redeem himself, right? With the performance he would probably put on, he would win the fight, make it look more one-sided than before, not make it a close fight like the first one, and he would be then regarded as the greatest of all time again. The steroids didn't matter. This one, he was clean. A lot of people were hoping he would be clean in this one. A week before the fight, and now a lot of people are not going to give him that kind of credit. Even if he dominates Alexander Gustafsson, because there's going to be a lot of, oh, but he took steroids before this fight. And at this point, even if he didn't take anything, you can't have a greatest of all time fighter have this much controversy around that fighter, right? People like GSP, Demetrius Johnson, Fedor Emelianenko, a lot of people. I mean, there was some speculation about Pride, but nothing about Fedor back then with PEDs. These guys are without controversy, really. I mean, there's a few with GSP, but nothing really concrete, just hearsay and things that Diaz brothers, or more so Nick Diaz, has been saying before. Nothing with him getting caught, no violations, nothing with drug tests. And you can't say the same with people like Anderson Silva and Jon Jones. So to those, the purists of the sport, who they would probably look at the greatest of all time, would have to be someone without the controversy. And Jon Jones, after this fight, for many people involved, is still not going to be able to redeem himself. And that could be a tough spot for someone like Jon Jones and his fans, because this was supposed to be the fight that washes everything away, right? And now it probably won't. But still, the card is still on, I guess. Things to still look forward to. Nothing's really proven yet. Just a lot of theories going around, and a lot of favoritism now going to Gus's side. I see that everywhere right now. And I'm not gonna lie, this made the fight a lot more anticipated, for me at least. I'm really looking forward to see what is gonna go on out there. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe. And in the comments below, leave what you guys think. What are your guys' opinions on this? Discussions on this is gonna be pretty interesting, and I know there's gonna be a lot of people with different viewpoints on this. So I'm really looking forward to see what you guys think as well. I'm going to be responding to some of you guys if you guys have some interesting posts out there. And maybe you know something about doping or PEDs or something more so than the common knowledge. And if you do, I really appreciate if you guys can share that. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. My next video is going to be the podcast. I'm actually working on it right now. It's probably going to come out Monday. I apologize I couldn't get up on Saturday. That's when I was planning on getting up, but I've been really busy with the holidays, man. I have a lot of relatives, a lot of planning going on. Exams ended a little bit ago, so I apologize if I couldn't get it out then. And since the semester's over for college for me, I'm going to try to get the podcast on a regular schedule again. So it being on Monday this week, I'm going to try to get it out on every Tuesday or Wednesday. So be lookout for that. And my prediction video is actually going to come out earlier than usual. It's probably going to come out on Christmas. On Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be the new layout because of the super stack card. So be on the lookout for that as well. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.